I'm being overrun by mice. Learn how to needle felt them. Hey, it's Thursday and it's Pam from Ben McFuzzylug, so that must mean we've got another needle felting tutorial. And today it's going to be these little needle felted mice. Very similar, using the same basic steps as we used for our rabbits. So if you want to check back on the rabbit tutorial, the bunny ear tutorial, or the making a bowl tutorial, that'll all help you out. But you can just follow along straight from this video. It's another great beginner's tutorial. Nice and easy, gives you some ideas of some basic shapes. And the supplies you need are, of course, a needle felting needle, like this guy. This is a 38 spiral felting needle. You need some fleece. This is carded white Corriedale fleece. You might need some pre-felt sheets like these and some scissors to cut them out, and possibly a small length of pipe cleaner or a piece of yarn in the chosen colour of your mouse. Now don't forget, if you like needle felting videos and want more like this, hit a like, give me a comment on anything else you'd like to see, and subscribe to the channel. Come back every Thursday. On Mondays we've got our Etsy shop SEO help tutorials, so if you're looking to build up as a small artist or crafter to selling your items online, then come back on Mondays for that. Some random dog training videos, and I haven't forgot, my supplies are in for the needle felted dragon tutorial that I'll be making. I'm just building up to doing that, so that will be coming along in the near future. Please stay tuned. But for now, gather up your supplies, let's get started making these mice. Okay, so to make our little mice, we're going to need a piece of fleece about 8 to 10 inches long, and I'm going to break it in half, just like what we did with our bunnies. Take the bigger half, and then with the smaller half, I'm just going to take about a third off of that again and add that to the bigger half. So I've got a half and a third and 2/3 of a half. I'm not going to do the maths, it's too early in the morning. Right, so we're going to take this bigger quantity, and I think the mices will be cuter with a more circular body. So I'm first of all rolling it into a ball, and it's just going to be a flat bottomed ball, just like the paw print. So if you haven't already looked at the paw prints tutorial, I'll give a link to that, but just keeping my thumb on the bottom to kind of hold it into flat on the bottom and more domed on the top. And I'm just gonna felt my way around and get that as firmly in a dome shape as I can. Maybe just squeezing in the edges slightly, squeezing in two sides so it's slightly less circular that way, but still more so than the bunny. I want still more so, yeah, still more so than the bunny. I want the mouse to just be a little bit fatter. Again, holding the needle totally perpendicular and felting just up and down like so all over the surface. I want to be flat, and this will draw the fibres into the centre, but all in that direction, which gives us a surface perpendicular to what we're working on. And the exact same to get the ball, like I always say, we're just moving the needle perpendicular to where we want the surface to be. And just if there's any bits that are sticking out more, you just felt into them slightly more, and if necessary you could add more fleece if any bits were a bit dented. But if you keep just felting away with your idea of the shape in mind, keep the needle going the right way, giving the item a wee squish between your fingers if you need to, then that's going to make the shape that you desire fairly quickly. It's getting a bit flat looking for me, so as I said, I was squeezing in the sides anyway. I'll squeeze them in a bit more just to give it a bit more height. Work on all around the edges rather than the top of this, because I don't want them too flat, so more on the edges and just enough on the top to firm it up without losing too much of his height there. Again, flattening out the bottom when needed. Now I've got to start on that. You spend much more time on it, but so far it's dome, it's what I wanted. So I'm going to work on the head with the smaller piece, just like in the bunny tutorial. So if you haven't looked at that, I'm just rolling it into a cross between a tube and a ball, and I'm leaving one end with only a little bit of fibres on it and one end fatter, so it's going to be round at the back, work into a slightly pointed shape. So working over the back to keep that rounded, and then holding the pointed nose end between my fingers so I can felt down, and keep rotating it as well so this becomes more conical rather than flat. And as this is a mouse, I'm just making the nose even more pointed than I did with the rabbits. It was slightly more rounded, but with the mouse I'm just making it more pointed. Now this has taken just less than 10 minutes to get to this point where I've got a kind of recognisable head and a body. I'm just going to spend another 10 minutes or so firming that up a little bit more, and I will be back to you with a slightly firmer shape. And by the magic of editing, we're back with this a little bit firmer. Still a long way to go, but I want to show you what's happening here. So with the body piece that I've made, it's slightly fatter at one end than the other. So I'm going to take the fatter, firmer end to be the bum and the softer end to be the front. And just like the bunny, we're sticking his head on, and I'm going to felt in, so always from the head in towards the centre of the body, and from the body in towards the centre of the head. So this means that we have a defined sort of bump in where the neck is, rather than felting it all into one smooth piece. It gives shape and definition to the neck, like you can see with the bunny. It goes in a little bit rather than almost just becoming the same shape. Now take the time you need to make sure this is firmly attached, and then if you see that you've got a kind of seam between them, then you just come in towards the edge and felting into that seam to start meshing together those fibres. Another thing you could do is take a small amount of fleece and fluff it up and pop that over any joins that you have that you want to hide. I didn't really need to because I could have felted away the line easily enough, but it's just an example. If you get to a point where it's actually really firmly felted but you've got something you want to hide, you can easily add a bit of fibre, and that just blends out any sharp edges or anything. And always when you're working on your piece, look at what you've got in front of you and think about whether you're happy with it or not. And I'm thinking that nose is a little bit too pointed for what I'm wanting, so I'm working into the nose to round it out slightly. It's just what you like the look of, what's in your mind's eye. So this is going to take 10 to 20 minutes to get really firm and smooth, just joining the two together, and a good 10 to 20 minutes to make the head and the body. So at this stage you should at least be about half an hour in. Don't rush these things. The lovely thing I find about needle felting is it's relaxing. You can just sit and take your time. But for the purpose of demonstration, I'm going to get on with a couple of methods to show you how to make ears. So the first way I'm going to show you to make the ears is just using this pre-felt that we used before for the bunny ears. And I'm just going to fold it in half so we get two identical ears. And then cut a circle out. If you need a guide, just anything you've got lying about, in fact that looks great, I'm going to use a lens cap just to attempt to cut around. So because I'm an utterly professional YouTuber, I just had two batteries that were totally drained, so I'm not sure what you saw here, so I'll just show you quickly. I used the pre-felt that I used in the bunny ears tutorial. Remember, I used the pre-felt that I've used in the bunny ears tutorial. I folded it in half to cut out two fairly rough circle shapes. They are the size of my lens cap because that's what I used, which is what, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. I'm useless at measurements. And what I am doing with these, I deliberately left a flat bottom on them and I'm just felting around the edges, mainly because it was quite hard to cut these neatly, but also it will just strengthen up the ears ever so slightly. So I'm quickly doing that with both of them. And then the bottom, where it was flat, I'm just pinching it, and you see how that gives quite a cute ear shape. And we just felt the pinch together so it slightly holds. Don't need to go crazy with that because it will only be for a minute before I stick it on. Do the same with the second one, pinch it together, felt the pinch together, carefully your fingers. And one way to not break the needles, but also to not stab your fingers too badly, is don't be holding the needle very firmly. It's just really loosely between my fingers. So if I do actually hit a solid surface like my finger, my finger just slips down the needle rather than actually jabs me quite hard. I mean, I do stab myself, we know that, but it's not too horrific. So we know that in the past, with the bunny ears, I needed a little bit of fleece to join them together, so we'll just do that. A little bit of fluff that I felt loosely onto the ears and then onto the head. Pick a place where they're going to look nice. Oh, that looks a bit like finger bob, if anyone's old enough to remember that. And we're just going to felt the ears in to the side of the head. And the same with the second one. Felt a little bit of fluff to give it a start. Pop it onto the head at a good angle to match the other one. And then felt through. So we're felting some of the fluff into the head and some of the fluff into the ear, so it joins them together. And try and keep that pinch just by pinching it gently between your fingers, because that gives a much nicer shape to the ear. And you can see what I mean about felting round the edges, because this one I did a lot more to, and it's quite a firmer, nicer shaped ear. And this one I was a bit quick to. I'll just, when I'm, after I've filmed this, I'll just go around that and firm it up before I photograph him for you, so you'll see the difference. But so far, there's our little mouse with his little mouse ears. And now what we could do for a tail, if I was better organised, I would have some white wool, or what in some countries you call yarn, spun fleece that you knit with. Just a piece of white wool. You can actually felt that into felted items. That would be kind of simple and quite cute. I, of course, am not prepared and didn't have that, so I'm going to go with a little pipe cleaner, like before, folding in the ends, taking a piece of white fleece, a fairly thin bit that I'm drafting out just to make it long and thin, and I'm going to wrap it really tightly to make a nice thin tail. Pull off the ends I don't need and quickly felt into it to get it to hold itself, and just to smooth it out, but I'm not going crazy with this. It will hold itself quite nicely. It doesn't need a lot of felting. It's just I wrapped it a bit badly and it's a bit lumpy. If the camera would like to focus on that for me. Yes, you can see it's a bit lumpy there. And then I'm going to take that and stick it on the back of the mouse. And you could stop here and leave your mouse like the original rabbits, a sort of Waldorf, no expression, to use your imagination, or we can add little details. And for this guy, I think the simpler the better. I'm going to take a pinch of black, roll it between my fingers into a ball, and then stab between my fingers so the ball holds. And we're going to pop that on the end of his nose. And I don't want him to be a blind mouse, so we'll just give him some little black eyes, and these are just going to be the simplest ones, like we did on the Schnauzer dog, just two little balls of black, two tiny pinches of white, and we pop the black on first where we think it's going to look the best. Again, like rabbits, mice's eyes are quite round to the side, so doing that. Trying to keep them a nice round shape, and then popping in the little glint of white in his eye. Like the rabbit, you could build up different colours if you wanted to, but I'm keeping this guy fairly simple. And I'm putting the white backwards towards the eye with both of them, with both eyes. You can see we've got the eyes on. What we can also do if we wanted to is colour the inside of his ears with a little bit of chalk if we wanted to make them a little pink. And I think we'll do that because it will look cute. So this is just Artist's Pastels again, chalk by a posh name. And I'm going to go with the lighter colour pink I've got here. These are little cotton balls that came with it. You can use brushes or anything you want. And I'm just going in and painting this onto his ear to give a little bit of pink. And because I want more concentrated colour right in the centre, I'm just picking up a bit of the dark colour, putting that in at this very centre, and then back in with the lighter colour and blending that out. It just gives a little bit of depth of shading. Again, spend as long working on blending, but I think for 2 seconds work that looks okay. And that's really all there is to making your little mice. Spend time going over them to make sure they stand up. He's a little front heavy, so I'm just going to spend a bit of time flattening up the bottom and maybe tilting his head up a little bit. But that's the basis of it. So for an alternative type of ear for the little mice, as you can see, I've made a little grey one and his ears are a bit different. All I've done is I've felted them like we've done in the bunny tutorials as well. I just take a nice piece of fleece and I'm just going to roll it into a flat circular shape like so, and I'm going to hold it in my thumb and I'm going to keep this bottom bit here fairly loose and just felt around the edges, so I'm felting between my fingers, and this is just going to cause a nice circular ear shape, and I can go and make this as dense and strong as I want so it's less floppy than the pre-felt ears. Just takes a wee touch longer, but it gives a more pleasing result, I believe, overall. If you want something that will last up to a bit more serious playing about with, the cutout ones are perfect for a mouse that's just going to be on display. And again, if the mouse was going to be used for playing with children, don't put the wire in their tail, and you can probably skip like the eyes and the nose, any small parts, and make sure it's firmly felted so that no bits can come off. In the main, I wouldn't recommend felted items for play anyway. They are supposed to be for decoration. They're an ornament to be treasured, because let's face it, you spend quite a lot of time making them. You don't want them destroyed by children. Now I'd say spend a good 10 minutes felting this down firmer, and if you're seeing any thin patches like we can see through there a bit, you just take the needle and felt along the length of it, and this takes fibres from the edge and fills out the middle, and keep going until it's as firm as you like, and then you're just going to do exactly as we did, pinch it together so it makes the ear, and felt it on to the head. You could, if you wanted, I could just use a small pinch of fleece to colour the inside of his ears in white if I wanted, but I quite like this guy all in grey. And the other thing I did with this one, when you're felting in the tail, if you keep on felting at the area where the tail is, then the bum starts to poof out and it actually looks even better, I think. So this way we have two little mice, And if they start to keep falling over, you just felt more in at the bottom, so they're more flatter and more secure. He was tipping forward, so I'm felting the back of the underneath of him, and that should start to help him to balance. He's not wanting to just now, but I'll work on that some more. And there you have little mice. Again, any colour you want to make them. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and you've got yourself some cute mice. As ever, if you manage to make these, then please share them with me. I love to see your work. And if you have any comments, complaints, questions, please leave them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for being with me. Come back next Thursday.